Okay, welcome back. This is another quick track breakdown. This time we're going to look at Falling Down featuring Aniah Alves. This is probably our most popular track. And I remember sending the beat over to Anya, and she just came back with like amazing vocals. There wasn't too much back and forth, so let's just have a quick listen to the track, and then we'll go down the list. We'll look at the vocal production, we'll look at the drums, look at the synths, and we'll look at the bass. Okay, so it's a pretty simple song. The way I've put it together looks a bit messy, but this project is probably about 4 years old now. Let's solo the vocals. What I've done here, it looks like each phrase. Let's have a listen.
Halfway we laugh, we cry.
Let me just take off the reverb, so go to the dry signal. Okay.
Halfway we laugh, we cry. Slow burn, but not tonight.
Yeah, so what I've done is I've put each phrase on a track, and I've probably comped the best version. And then this has given me the ability to adjust the volume on each one up and down for like louder and quieter parts. Usually now what I do is I put it all into one track, because it gets, as you can see, it gets a little bit messy. But you learn as you go. So each one of these,
Halfway we laugh, we cry.
each one of these has been bounced down to audio. So as it comes into the project, it will have had, if I go to my vocal chain, these were my vocal plugins up here. So yeah, I would have EQ'd, declicked, got rid of any noise, any kind of background stuff. So as a starting point, everything's clean.
Halfway we laugh, we cry. Slow burn, but not tonight.
So we have verse. Let's just solo that out.
To find a way. I'm understanding, too demanding.
Okay, so it looks like, yeah, I've separated them into groups. So we've got verse 1 here. Usually I'd color code all this, but looks like I haven't bothered.
Too demanding to find a way.
And then the chorus.
The time and space unknown.
And then verse 2.
Now I'm searching for undertones. The truth hurts. Now you're alone. I'm understanding.
And then we've got the outro.
No, 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 no.
What I've done then is I've done individual processing on each one of these, bounced it down to audio, grouped it, and then each group, let's go to the verse. Actually, they've all been printed. So this one has got, what's going on here? We have got some, oh my goodness, we've got a lot. So on this section at the outro, before it sums up to the group, I've EQ'd out. Now that looks quite extreme. I don't think I'd do that nowadays. I'd probably use like a resonance suppressor or something else just to control that, but it looks like there was some harshness there. I'm not going to touch that. What else have we got? Yeah, it looks like I've used Soothe 2 here, but obviously the Pro Q obviously did a better job. And then it looks like I've grouped this with something to give it a bit of saturation, but that's probably on an old project. I don't know if I've got that plugin loaded on this one anymore. So yeah, the groups will have some resonance suppression. Let's have a look at verse 2. We got a Pro Q3 on here. That looks like it's doing a similar thing. Verse 2, there we go. Got a solo verse 2, okay.
Bounded by
Yep.
memories. You bring out the best in me.
So yeah, you can see there's some de-essing there. I think we're getting rid of some of like the nasal honk. Around 200, and then there's probably
Bounded by memories. You bring out the best in me.
So yeah, using dynamic EQ to try and keep it as natural sounding as possible. It looks quite extreme. I don't think I'd do that nowadays, but it seems to have worked, so.
Surrounded by memories. You bring out the best in me.
That's not how I'd work now, but get rid of some of these. So yeah, they're on the groups. So everything sums up to a group. So all those groups, so the chorus, verse 1, 2, and the outro, they all come into this lead group. And then here we have
the time and space unknown.
Let's have a quick look.
The time and space unknown.
More EQ, looks very drastic. A de-esser.
The time and space unknown.
Okay. What's that? That's the Alesis. That comes with the Slate digital pack. It's quite a nice de-esser.
The time and space unknown.
Just on a preset here. You can see, I think it's spectrally ducking out the S's. Again, quite an old project, so I probably wouldn't use that anymore. Auto-tune is doing
the time and space unknown. The time and space unknown. The time and
yeah, auto-tune is just doing a tiny amount of pitch correcting. It's hardly pitch correcting. I think I'm just using it for the tone, because a lot of modern vocals have got that kind of slight auto-tuned sound. So it's not really for the pitch correction. Yeah, just for that pitch kind of granular, shifty sound. And then
the time and space unknown.
Yeah, Soothe 2. So I just must have discovered Soothe 2 and then realised I can do some de-essing with it. So doing more de-essing there. There's a second one here.
The time and space unknown.
And it looks like that one is just dealing with the fundamental, so controlling that. Again, looks like a lot of processing. What's happening here? A bit of gain. Maybe the gain was too low going into this.
The time and space unknown.
Yeah, this is a Lindell channel strip, so I think I'm using this for a tiny bit of compression and just a bit of tone. I like the way this sounded. Gives it that kind of, in brackets, analog vibe, whatever that means. But yeah, this is a great plugin. So
the time and space unknown.
Let's turn it off and see how it sounds without that. Let's bypass it.
The time and space unknown. The time and space unknown.
Yes, that's definitely adding some Adding some gain, a little bit of compression. And then slate VMR.
Halfway we laugh, we cry. Slow burn, but not tonight.
Okay, let's turn it off, see what it sounds like.
Halfway we laugh, we cry. Halfway we...
Okay, yeah, it's adding quite a lot there. So this is the virtual channel strip. So you can select, yeah, this is a Brit N, so that's a Neve emulation. And it's adding some compression.
Halfway we laugh, we cry.
And then we're going into the FG stress, which is distorting, and there's a tiny bit of gain reduction.
Halfway we laugh, we cry.
It's just touching that. It's not really doing much. And then into the 1176.
Halfway we laugh, we cry.
So that's catching some more peaks. And then we have an SSL emulation. Doesn't look like that's doing anything. And then we've also got this Neve, which is doing a boost. Let's try it.
Halfway we laugh.
Yeah, that's definitely brightening things up. So without a whip.
Halfway we laugh, we cry.
Without.
Halfway we laugh, we cry.
So yeah, we've got boosts at like 3K, what's that, 1K, and then there's some, looks like an air, shelf there, just giving it some air. So if I turn it off,
Halfway we laugh,
sounds quite dull.
we cry.
Turn it on.
Halfway we laugh, we cry.
Then we've got a low cut here, just about 100. So yeah, if I just bypass that.
Halfway we laugh.
And then turn it back on.
Halfway we laugh, we cry.
Sounds pretty dull without it, and it gives it a bit more life. So I think after all the processing on the groups to control all the resonances, everything sounded a little bit flat. So the virtual mix rack is bringing out, especially with this EQ, is bringing back in just some of the tone. Probably wouldn't process it like that nowadays, but it sounded okay. Okay, moving on. So we have the AMEC, which is doing a similar thing to the virtual mix rack. It's just, what are we boosting here? So about 200 hertz boost. What else have we got here? 1.5K. Looks like we're doing a cut there. So yeah, I think this is dealing with some resonance. Let's have a listen.
Halfway we laugh, we cry. 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 Halfway we laugh, we cry.
Whatever it's doing, it's making it sound better. And then we've got this utility here. That's just making sure, I think it's in mono anyway, but that's just making sure it's in mono. Then we've got another Soothe 2.
Halfway we laugh, we cry. Slow burn, but not tonight.
So that's doing a bit of control on the high and mids. I seem to have got trigger happy with Soothe 2 on this project. And then Pro DS is just...
Halfway we laugh, we cry. Slow burn, but not tonight. Speechless with no reply. The truth hurts, so close your eyes.
Yes, that's just a last ditch thing in the chain to catch any rogue S's without it.
Halfway we laugh, we cry. Slow burn, but not tonight. Halfway we laugh, we cry. Slow burn, but not tonight.
Quite subtle, but does something. Okay, then moving over to the reverb change. So it hasn't got much reverb on. I always like to put an EQ before going into a reverb, just so I know that like the low end isn't getting all bounced around, or like the super high. So this kind of mid-rangey section is nice and controlled. And then so this is Sonable's smart reverb, and you can set it to like learn your vocal, and then it'll give you a suggested idea of a reverb style, you know, depending on the settings, you know, if you want it short, big, long, whatever. This one obviously sounds quite distant and in the background. Very spacey. And then I think, yeah, this is the Valhalla Supermassive, yeah, on the Bright Room preset. That's amazing. This is a free plugin as well, so I recommend that. And then Micro Shift. What's Micro Shift doing?
Halfway we laugh, we cry. Slow burn, but not tonight. Speechless with no reply. The truth hurts so.
So it's just adding like a kind of phasey sound, giving some width. So if we add those all back in, start with the dry.
Halfway we laugh, we cry. Slow burn, but not tonight. Speechless with no reply. The truth hurts, so close your eyes.
Then in context, the whole song. So yeah, it's quite simple. Nowadays, I'd probably use a ton more reverb and effects, but sometimes simplicity is all we need. So if we look here, we've got a harmony group. And again, I've done the same thing, but what's interesting here is the intro. So I've just bounced some parts of the vocal with reverb printed on them, and then used the Ableton Auto Pan and set different rates on each of these. So that's on an 8th, that one's on a 16th, and then automated the amount. So if we solo this, adds quite a nice bit of movement. So if I turn it off, it's just quite plain. And on. Then all of them together. And then let's just hear the beginning. Yeah, so that's just a nice way to kind of bring in the vocals, but use it as like a riser, adding different effects and stuff. So builds a little bit of tension, and it's sometimes nice to make use of like what you've already got rather than using like white noise risers or whatever. You know, putting a bunch of reverb on vocals, printing them down, and then adding effects is quite a nice thing to do. Yeah, so those are the harmonies, and then got some ad libs here, just little bits. Solo that out.
The best in me The best in me. The best in me.
They're really nice.
Too demanding. Too far. La da da da. La da da da. Ooh.
So yeah, it's an amazing vocal. It's like the first thing Anya sent over to me. Never need revisions with Anya. She's an amazing singer and she's got melody ideas for days. Yes, that's the vocal. It's not very complicated in the processing. It's just simple, controlled. If anything, it's probably a little over-processed. Could be much better arranged and organised, but this was one of the first songs I ever did with a vocalist. So yeah, I was kind of learning the ropes really and trying to make sure I had enough macro control over all these little parts. So if I needed to go back, I wasn't too destructive, but now I'd probably print everything to audio and then just move on. So yeah, that's the vocal.
Halfway we laugh, we cry.
Okay, let's take a look at the bass. Pretty simple. We have got 2 layers. That's obviously out of Omnisphere, bounced down. We've got a top layer. This top layer and the bass have got sidechaining to the lead vocal by the looks of it. Yeah. Oh yeah, 300 hertz just to create a bit of space. Play them together. Got some heavy sidechaining going on there. So we have got, where's the kick? Yeah, so the AMEC is doing 3 dB boost at 80, adding a bit of presence. We've got a track spacer. Sidechain to the kick. And then we've also got a bit of sidechain to the valve synth up here from the instrument group. Let's solo that together. I think because the buzz of the top end of the bass was probably getting in the way of, yeah, that. So that cleans that up. And then we've got duck. Solo that and the kick. So that's moving the bass out the way. And after that, there is a better maker. What is this doing? I quite like this EQ. Really have to use your ears though, because it's a bit hectic to look at. So yeah, again, everything on this project seems to have a 1 or 2K boost, just to fill that gap. I've obviously got a monitoring problem in my room, so let's sell it on its own. Definitely adds a bit of presence. So if it's off, and then on, again, subtle, but makes a difference. But yeah, that's the bass. It's really simple, 2 layers. Nothing crazy. Just good solid elements. That's the bass. Okay, let's have a look at the instruments in this track. So we'll solo the track out. Just press play. Okay, on the intro, we've got this guitar. This is like the main hook of the whole thing. And it's essentially, I think it's a preset from Omnisphere, played on a keyboard. And it's got a reverb on that I don't own anymore. The reverb has got this nice, like, really wide delay. I think it's meant to be in the vein of, like, Let's Dance, David Bowie. Gives it a lot of movement. And then the sequence is repeated, and then it, like, there's a little turnaround at the end. Yeah, pretty simple stuff, and then everything, like, follows that, like this pad up here just follows the probably the same notes. And the bass and everything else. So let's look at the processing. So we've got the Focusrite console Brainworks emulation here. That is doing some, what is it doing? Boosting the high mids, yeah, about 1K. So if I turn that off, turn that on, bit more presence. This Pro Q3 is sidechain to the kick, so it looks like it's ducking where the kick drum's here. So if we find the kick, looks like it's ducking the top of the kick. Yeah. And also it's probably giving a bit of a pulse, a bit of a pump to the guitar, a little bit of extra movement. The Infinity EQ is, I like this EQ, it's very good for mid-side stuff. It is cutting away the mid signal at around 200 and then boosting at the same frequency the sides. If I turn it off, sounds cool, sounds fine. Turn it back on. It's just carving a bit of space where that fundamental is. So I imagine that's so that when the vocal comes in, the center of the track is just created a pocket for the vocal. And then we've got some track spacer here that's sidechained to the verse. So this section, I presume, solo them together. So that is sidechained to another synth by the looks of it. Yeah, to get out of the way for that thing. A lot of sidechaining, just subtle movement of things in and out of focus on this project. And after that, we've got an EQ doing a 3dB boost at about, 1K. Often I find, like, I use this tool here, just have a look at the spectrum. And, like, there's often, like, a gap here at about 1 or 2K, so a lot of elements have just got little boost to fill that space. And then there is a Pro Q3. Okay, so let's solo guitar and the vocal. Big old group, this one.
Surrounded by memory, behind old times. It's unknown.
Yeah, you can see.
We're falling bare, unsown.
So the red bits tell you where there's like frequency conflict with the vocal, and then I've dipped here dynamically, so they just, the vocal comes in and the frequencies just duck down a touch to make a bit more space.
It's unknown. We're falling bare, unsown.
Quite subtle, but when you sum it all together, it makes a big difference. Yeah, so that is the guitar. That is the main kind of hook of the song. And then we've got this pad up here, out of atmosphere, following the same notes as the guitar, I think. Let's have a look at the processing on this. Not much. All that is just, so yeah, sidechain to the lead. So if we solo that out, and solo the vocals.
Halfway we laugh, we cry. Slow, I'm understanding, too demanding.
Not much, 200-300 hertz, a little bit of a duck. So that's doing that. And then
Eyes.
in the main verse, we've got these instruments that come in to like bookmark the end of the verse. So if I play from here,
Hurt, so close your eyes. Falling behind old times. Now I see beyond your lies. I'm under.
let's solo these out. So these come out of the Aniah 2 synth, but I cannot remember if I made them or if it's a preset. So we've got one. And number 2. So you can see here that they're like offset. So you play them together. You get this really nice delay. That's a nice little effect. Just adds a bit of interest because otherwise on its own, it's a bit dull. So these are panned left and right. These ones are grouped together. So we've got the Focusrite. Yeah, 1K boost. Add a bit of colour. Sidechain from the kick, the top of the kick, so that comes through. And then the Infinity is doing, so wow, super high cut. Let's have a... So it's only really keeping in what's audible and then dipping that mid-range and boosting up the side. So loads of space for the vocal. Track spacer on the kick. Let's find that. There's the kick. And together. I'd probably use volume automation nowadays because it's cleaner, but track spacer is amazing. And then again, yeah, this is sidechained to the lead vocal. So if we solo that.
Falling behind old time.
Yeah, you can see these red lines where there's conflicts. So I've just scooped out a few bits.
Falling behind old times. Now I see beyond your light.
Yeah, so that's the first, that's the intro to verse, end of verse, and then coming to the chorus. There's like another steel guitar out of Omnisphere that I've played. Sorry, that's the pad. And then the guitar, I think is this one. Yeah. So together they sound like this. And then in context,
I'm understanding, too demanding to find a way.
and what I've done to lead into the chorus, I've just kept this reverb tail off the main guitar. So if we play it from here,
Beyond your lies, I'm understanding, too demanding.
it's just quite nice, a bit like in the vocals, just finding, you know, reverb parts, leftover bits, and reusing them to make transitions. So yeah, that plays through. Let's just see. So we've got Pro Q on each one of those, and then the same thing is happening again. We got track spacer. This time I'm using
Beyond your lies, I'm understanding.
duck to volume automate from the kick. That's interesting.
Beyond your lies, I'm understanding. Beyond your lies.
Okay, yeah, you can see the kick is there, so let's solo that. Yes, that's another layer just to make sure that the side chaining is actually happening. Yeah, that's on the instrument group as a whole, so that's just to make sure that everything that goes through this instrument bus, even though I've got side chaining on them individually, there's a definite volume automation here that will make sure that kick gets through. And it also means that the whole group should kind of groove a bit more with the kick, hopefully. This is quite important, so if I just play this chorus. There's this little saxophone sample here. Probably found it on Splice or a sample pack, and is it pitched up? Nope, it was in the perfect key, just fits really well. Makes a nice like end to the phrase.
I'm understanding, too demanding to find a way.
I think that's a reverse hi-hat with some reverb on it. That brings in the next section. And we've also got them at the start of the song as well. Solo that.
Halfway.
Yeah, there's not a huge amount of effects on here. Just a few risers. This little saxophone part. Yeah, it's not a massively complicated tune. Everything follows the guitar. All the synths.
Now I'm searching for undertones.
So yeah, that's the instruments just grouped together. They've all got the same processing on, and things are ducking in and out, making space for the vocal, and making sure there's like down the middle of the track, there's loads of room for the drums. It's just a nice selection of sounds, really. Not overlaid, not too many elements, just enough. Right, the last section, most important, is probably the drums. So I just play these. Okay, let's start with the hi-hats. Right, so we have, so we've got a reverse hi-hat here. It's quite a long sample, and it's just playing at the start of each or end of each bar. We just add it in and listen. It's almost like a riser. It's obviously been reversed and slowed down. Cool. So yeah, just cutting out all the lows. It's a bit like a swell. Then we've got these hi-hats. Not that interesting. And then another layer of hats. Let's play them together. When they kind of come together, there's a bit more of a groove. On their own, they're quite boring. This is an arpeggiated hi-hat, so I've probably put a hi-hat in a drum rack and then use an arp to kind of pitch it up, I think. Or use the arp on the amplitude or something to create the variance. Together they sound interesting, on their own they're pretty boring. Then this is just a straight. Very straight hi-hat. I think the idea of this was to get like a boom bap style drum beat, you know, like kind of DJ Premier kind of style. And the hi-hats are quite, they're swung, but they're quite tight. So yeah, all together they sound like this. And there's not much going on, just cutting the bass out of the way. We've got this thing here, which is probably the same as this, where this came from. Yeah, but that's just been used as a riser. So if we play it all together. And then the kick is just one kick. I haven't layered this at all. But we have got the VMR. Yeah, so there's a big boost around 3K. And then around 80, there's a bit of a low, we've got here low shelf. And then there's a bit of compression. So if we turn the compressor off, tightens it up. High mid boost, 500. It's that little notch out around 500. And then we've got revival on the end, which brings out the tops. Yeah, that makes it a little bit brighter. So if I turn the entire chain off, doesn't sound very interesting, but add that in. Just makes it knock. Big room kick preset that I've just tweaked and dialed in. It makes it bounce a bit more. Yeah, and then just smooth shelf there. Just cutting away some stuff we don't need. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just a nice kick. Okay, the snare drum. Let's have a listen. You've got two snares, top snare, bottom snare. Yeah, so one's a bit punchier and one's a bit more kind of white noisy. So together. And then we have punchy bright snare from VMR. Okay. Compression, some EQ boosting, and then revival. So just turn the whole thing off. Obviously, it is giving a massive level boost, but adding some tone. And then in parallel, I've got the dry snare. And then I'm using a transient shaper from Kilohertz. This is probably where the money is. Yeah. That's given a punch. And then we've got the, what is the mag doing? Let's have a listen. I think I'm just using the compressor on here. Yeah. So if we play that on its own, then add this, then add transient. It's obviously way louder, but it's very punchy. And then some EQ afterwards. Yeah, so again, that 1K region that I seem to struggle with, got a boost here. And then a wider boost with the Neve emulation. I'll just bypass it. Turn it back on. Yeah, that's bringing out the kind of ring, the top end of the snare. And then I think there's two pointy frequencies, probably from all the transient shaping and pushing stuff up, just taming some of the harshness. So let's close that and let's add it all together. So kick and snare. Yeah, it's got a nice little groove to it. It bounces along. And then on the bus, they all run into this drum bus. And we have the Lindell channel strip, which is adding drive and probably a little bit of compression. Or maybe no compression, just for the texture. Turn that off. Turn it on. So down here, we have got a lot of parallel chains. So if I solo the dry, so I think, yeah, we've got the Ableton drum bus, lovely plugin here. Adding some drive, some crunch, some boom. Great for boom bap drums. Mixed in at 30, almost halfway. Turn that off. That beefs that up. Shadow Hills. This is great compressor. So just using that to get really sharp, kind of punchy transient, kind of slappy drum sound. What's this one? Decimal. Bit of bit crushing. Adds distortion. What's this one doing? That's adding a bit of thump to the low end. I think I use this just in the purely wet mode, but yeah, saturation. Yeah, wet only. Good for beefing up drums. And then cassette here. Sounds super clipped and distorted, but it sounds nice. So let's add all these in together. Start with the dry. Yeah, sounds good. Sometimes you have to be careful when you're layering stuff like this. It doesn't start phasing. I used to just stack processing up and then you start losing the body and the impact. And then this better maker at the end of the chain is got a boost at 3K and a boost at 60, I think. So Yeah, just add a bit more presence. But yeah, nothing crazy on the drum bus. No, there's not even any clipping on here. Like I mix and whittle clippers quite a lot now just to bring the RMS up of the drums. It's a pretty simple change, just some parallel compression and processing, just to bring in the texture and a bit of EQ. The drums aren't massively complex. There's not loads of layering apart from on the snare, just some transient, a bit of body, and just one kick. And then together. And with the whole track.
Halfway we laugh, we cry. Slow burn the night tonight.
So yeah, super simple project. One of my favourites. Working with Aniah for the first time was great. Yeah, people really seem to like it, so maybe I'll make some more in this style. But yeah, sometimes you don't need to have a super complicated idea. You can just have simple things going on. But the sum of its parts can be quite good.